on trying to figure out what it means to be the embodiment of time. What does it mean to be a collection of all your ancestors and all of their memories and all of their biological information, and how does that come out in art making, in image making, and figuring out ways to access some of that information.
One of the things that I thought was quite interesting is like the title of the show, which I came up with, was Time, the Perfect Muse, which links into this idea of the muse being not just from the perspective of like us musing each other and inspiring through our conversations, but a muse through the position of ancestral, the idea that the muse is not just a person or a place or a thing, but it expands the position of time. Like a muse can be an object, a muse can be, you know, anything. Hi, I'm Emily Moore. I'm a painter and I'm from London. I graduated from Royal College of Art in 2020 from the painting department. I could call myself a painter. However, within my practice, there's a scope of different materials and media that I use within my practice. So you'll find crochet, you'll find knitting, tapestries, as well as traditional painting, sculpture, installation within my practice. But although you find all of those languages or different types of ways of thinking through my practice, everything is rooted in the history and the lineage of painting. Because painting has such a huge legacy and a weight that I feel like it speaks across all different types of like materials and styles and tropes and different types of mark making.
My name is Maiye. I'm an interdisciplinary artist based in London. I'm currently on residence at Saraband, which is the Alexander McQueen Foundation. And I am an artist that works in different visual mediums, different languages. Some of my interests include memory, imagination, and identity. My practice varies. It varies based on what interests me at the time. One of my current interests has been looking at memory and trying to find a tangibility around memory. What is memory? Where does it start? Where does it stop? How is memory configured and stored? Is it malleable? Where does imagination come into that? The relationship between the two, and you know, personal memory, interpersonal memory, cultural memory. How do all of these things play roles in our lives?
So myself and the other artist, Hamid, we were discussing over the course of the last few months, we've been discussing like how our practice intertwine and the relationship that both of our practice have within each other, like towards each other. And one of the things that came up is like our use of materials and this idea that the ancestral lineage was something that was quite like predominant like within our practice, and how we kind of like honed into like the conversations around how our practices speak about our personal experiences, as well as like our position as painters, contemporary artists working and living today in London.
I think immediately one thing that strikes me about Emily's practice is the use of material and her very like instinctive or instinctual approach towards material. I think there's also very much like crossovers in terms of viewing image making as language or creating language. I think often when we communicate through language, especially through speaking, it can be quite flat in terms of getting a message across, or trying to describe something, or trying to get someone to meet you within that verbal communication, for example. And I think our practices like very much interrogate that space of in between or nuance, the spaces where other languages might fail, and yeah, just like trying to figure out some of these messages or feelings, and I guess like occupy a space